Hello, and welcome to Retail Customers in an Agile World by the Wizard of Pause. When talking about customers, one of the first things to consider is privacy, and there's a balance there. Providing consumers with an experience that is both differentiated and relevant while remaining consistent across all channels and contact points can be a key to increasing revenue and customer loyalty. Achieving this without alienating the customer by spamming them or making them feel as if their privacy is being invaded is a key imperative. Many retailers are capable of offering focused promotions to their customers based on where they are, who they're with, and what they're doing. However, collecting and using such data, particularly in contexts that differ from the original purpose for which the data was collected, can be viewed as intrusive while presenting potential legal risks to the retailer. Privacy must be taken into account when dealing with your customers. The three tasks of a retailer are: 1, get a consumer into your store; 2, turn them into a customer by having them buy something; and 3, ultimately make a profit on that sale. This presentation is about how to get a consumer into your store and turn them into a customer. We want to begin the work talking about a customer lifecycle. It begins with the population. That's an undifferentiated world of people and organizations that are the source of prospects, basically the world. They become prospects when they become aware of the retailer. So it's an individual, collection of individuals, company or public institution that does not currently purchase merchandise or services from the retailer, but who may be in the future. A prospect has no recorded relationship with the retailer, but may be identified through purchase databases, market research, product surveys, and the like. They then move to be a visitor when they walk in the store or land on a page. So a visitor is an anonymous entity, person or web crawler, for example, that enters a store or lands on a web page owned by the retailer. The visit to the store or web page is the conversion event that changes a party from being a prospect to being a visitor. They then move to becoming a shopper, and that's when they stop in the aisles or they do some sort of hold of an item. So a party that is observed to be actively moving through a store or website, looking at product and services, deciding whether or not to purchase them. For stores, this is a stop and hold. For web stores, it's putting them in a shopping basket, adding them to a wish list. The conversion event that transforms a visitor to a shopper is the act of browsing, i.e. looking at the products, picking them up, reading product features, placing them in the electronic shopping basket, and so on. And now we get to the important part, the customer. This is when they select and settle the items. And now we are starting to establish a specific relationship with them. So an individual may purchase and or return goods and services from a retailer, and that has a persistent relationship with that retailer. The conversion event that transforms a shopper into a customer is when they commit to purchase the item and settle the transaction. Now, they can move on to become inactive customers. An individual that does not currently purchase merchandise or services from the retailer, but who was at one time a customer. The transformation of a customer to an inactive customer is simply the lack of buying activity over a period of time determined by the retailer. The business rules for determining how long a customer's inactivity marks them as inactive depends on the nature of the retail business. For example, a grocery retailer might make somebody inactive if they've been gone for more than 3 consecutive months, whereas a fashion retailer, it may be inactivity for a full year. Inactive customers can react and recover. But then they move on to ex-customers. These are individuals for what reason will no longer buy from the retailer. In effect, ex-customers are considered unrecoverable because the cost required to convert these ex-customers back to customers exceeds the return on investment for that effort. Basically, they're just non-recoverable. Then we want to talk about influencers. An influencer, through published opinions, recommendation reviews, and so on, affects the behavior of customers, especially in today's world. Influencers include bloggers, reporters, Twitter users with followers, other social and mass media content creators. Influencers, because they do not necessarily have direct contact with the retailer, are harder to tie to a conversion event. The business rules for determining how to measure the impact of an influencer depends on the retailer. Our discussion is going to follow the IVRM model. It's an interactive virtual unified retail model. And what happens is many companies that fail don't have their strategy properly tied to their execution. And the IVRM model helps them do that, starting with the business strategy, tying it into the business architecture by identifying the value streams and capabilities for executing that strategy. They then tie to the business processes, the people, and the information necessary to support that execution. And finally, they go back through the business intelligence component to provide feedback on how that execution is progressing. We're going to start with the enterprise architecture area of the IVRM model because it's mostly about information. So I've divided the customer behavior into 4 areas. First being geographic segments. Then there's the customer segment itself. There's demographic information about the customer. And finally, there's psychographic information about the customer. So where does all this information come from? Well, sources like what tender types did they use? What loyalty programs is that customer associated with? What sort of discounts applied? Are they senior citizens, for example? How much did they pay? What was the cost of the inventory that they bought? What's the quantity? How many cans of soup did they buy? And what were the items that were purchased? Together, by analyzing these things, these measures become the criteria for segmenting customer behavior. So let's start talking about the different segments. We'll start with demographics. As you can see here, there's a number of demographic kinds of content that helps you understand who your customers are. What's their age? What's their sex? What's their education? What race are they? Their religion? Family. This gets into households and children and grandparents and all of those kind of relationships. What's their education? And finally, what is their income? This demographic information helps you focus on what it is that a customer buys at a particular retail store. Customer relationships are a great part of the whole customer demographics in order to figure out what it is that you'd like to sell somebody and how to sell them. Starting at the top with a household. Households can include not just the family, but the parents, the grandparents, even cousins and the like. The husband and the wife together can have their own set of loyalty accounts, and they can be related through the household to their children. In each particular customer information, you can have accounts set up for them. You can have, under each account, you can have various programs that are then used to communicate promotional information to individuals. So the next segment is psychographic data. Here we deal with things like lifestyle, their personality, what are their values and attitudes on things, and what's their personal value. These help you segment again that information even more. And then there's just a general catch-all area called other. And here we look at things, what's their dietary habits? Do they have any sort of disability or impairment? Are they personally interested in anything like maybe soccer or baseball or football or something of that nature? So what we're talking about is a customer in an agile world where things like the customer loyalty and target marketing information are stored in the cloud. And of course, we need to be able to add customer under customer maintenance services. We need to be able to validate them because of the privacy things we were talking about and the security things that come into play. We need to be able to send them targeted offers. In order to do that, you need to be able to look up various items to see which ones apply for the targeted offers. And you also want to be able to offer suggestions in terms of beyond target suggestions for new things. You want to be able to add and inform and inquire your loyalty information. You want to be able to subscribe them to particular campaigns, like, for example, the Christmas campaign or Thanksgiving or Halloween. And they want to be able to use their loyalty points, so you want to be able to adjust, inquire, look up the various loyalty information. So let's look at the groups of applications that might have need for this customer services as we identified. So first we have groups of applications that are directly impacted by the customer services world, like your marketing strategy, your customer service strategy, your merchandise planning, your assortment planning, and your promotion planning. There are sets of services that would need access from a control perspective, like order management and loss prevention. Then there are sets of applications that would execute directly off of the customer information, like marketing, order management, item management, and product management. And then there are all kinds of supporting applications that need access to customer information, as shown here in the gray. So now we're going to go through quickly the other areas of the IVRA model that allow us to tie the business strategy down to the information that we were just looking at, and then back to the strategy again. So we start with attracting new customer strategies, inciting existing customers to come in more frequently strategies, cross-sell, upsell strategies, and customer retention strategies. As we move around the circle, we move into the business architecture area, where one of the key components is identifying value streams that are tied directly to support the business strategy. In this case, we've got the customer value stream strategy. The second key component of a value stream is having capability maps tied to each component of a value stream under the business architecture area. And here are a set of capabilities associated with the customer management, definition, portfolio management, etc. And if we look at the business process area, the next area, we're going to look down here at the provide customer care process and see what involves in that. Here are all kinds of processes associated with providing customer care. We've already looked at the enterprise architecture area. That's pretty much the information or attribute area of the model. So we're going to go around to the business intelligence component. And as you can see here, we've got the demographic, geographic, psychographic components figuring into the customer behavior, with a lot of behavioral segments that help support that, leading out to the consumer lifecycle measurements and characterization. In closing, I would like to give a special thanks to Andy Matisse for the incredible pictures you've seen here in this presentation. I would also like to point out that there's the YouTube channel where this video is stored, and there's a whole set of information videos on all kinds of aspects of retail technology. I have a blog at globalretailtechnologyadvisors.com, and I've created a School of Retail Technology if you want to have special education on any component of it. In addition, I wrote a book called Art Through Retail, which explains a lot of what you will see in the various videos, available on Amazon. Thank you. I am the Wizard of Pod. My name is Richard Halter. Please check out my book, Art Through Retail, using technology to turn your consumers into customers and make a profit. It's available on Kindle. Thank you.